chug, 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 chug.
Hello and welcome back to the Wizard Staff. I'm your host Guy.
And I'm Blake.
And we are two drunk novices talking about EDH. We like to drink and swear, so you've been warned. Please drink responsibly before playing a children's card game. Alright, so we got a fuck ton of stuff to talk about. It's that time of year where you got a major core set and then like 5 commander decks. So there's a lot of new cards, and oh my goodness. Okay. I always look forward to and dread this part of the year so much, because as like, you know, a player, I'm like, oh yes, just show me all these new cards. But now I gotta talk about them too. I'll tell you why probably most of them aren't as good as you want them to be. Like, you always get your hopes up. Okay, I'm done with that rant.
Already? This is just the beginning of the podcast. We're already ranting?
We're like less than a minute in, and I'm like, alright, no more ranting. Like, no, that's a lie. I'm sorry.
Just getting started.
Yeah. So, okay, we're talking about new Capenna. We are breaking this into 3 parts. So, we got the Legendary Creatures Part 1, the 99 Part 2, and then we got the Commander deck Precons. There are 5 of them this year, so that's why we've kind of like breaking them out. Or, not this year, but like part of this set. So, that's why we broke it out into its own episode. But, yeah. Okay, before we get started with some new Capenna stuff, quick, small, like, almost like unnotable kind of announcement, because like I feel like this happens a majority of the time, but there was no update from the rules committee for the second quarter. Here's a short summary, but we're comfortable where the format is at the moment, especially given that it hasn't been a full quarter since our last update. As we get back fully into in-person play, we'll see how the landscape changes. We'll see a significant uptick in cards with treasures. We'll bring any deeper consideration regarding dockside extortionists. So, kind of cool that there is some talks of that one card, because it's so good. But yeah, there are treasures in this set. There are so many treasures.
And we're going to talk about them.
Yes. So, okay, what are we drinking? Blake, what are you drinking?
Well, I am drinking the same thing as I drank last podcast. I'm trying to finish up my Russian standard vodka. I'm just drinking it straight. I'm just doing straight shots tonight. I have work tomorrow morning, so hopefully I can't go too hard, but I'll definitely have some fun here.
Oh yeah. I mean, when is it not fun to talk about magic cards?
Yeah, and my best friend? Yeah, that's always a good time. Yeah.
Oh my god. I don't want to cry. Okay. Okay. I am not drinking tonight. I took something a little different. I won't get into the specifics of that. But, alright, so, we got our intro, New Capenna. So, New Capenna is the second standard set of the year. It is inspired by modern urban gangster movies, focusing on early 20th century society and organized crime. The set takes place in the Art Deco noir metropolis of New Capenna, a city that has both grit and glamour. It is a place built by angels, but now ruled by 5 demon crime families battling for supremacy. The fragile alliances that foster peace between the families are being strained to a breaking point, as the precious commodity Halo seems to be running out, and someone known as the Adversary makes a power grab. Meanwhile, the planeswalker Elspeth Tyrell arrives to investigate her past. Deep under the city, another outsider has his own plans. So, yeah. We got 5 families, and we're going to go into the mechanics now of each of those families. So, Blake, do you want to read the first one?
Sure. So this one is the Obscura. I'm going to butcher all of these names. They're the Gifted Magicians. It is white, blue, black. So that is Esper, I believe, for other names. So these are the information brokers, dealers, and conduits of knowledge as a commodity. They stay off frontline fighting, but they wield leverage behind the scenes, blackmail, and soft coercion. So their mechanic, each of these families has a coherent mechanic. So for the Obscura, it is Connive. A card will state Connive X, and that means you draw X cards, then discard X cards, so it's basically looting. And then, in addition to that, you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each non-land card discarded this way. So it's looting, it's putting +1/+1 counters on it. We'll talk about some cards in the future here.
Yeah, it's a decent mechanic. I think it's pretty flavorful.
Yeah.
As the information brokers. The next mechanic is the Maestros, which are known as the Elite Assassins, and they are the blue-black-red Murder Squad, which was also previously known as Grixis. Mm-hmm. So, holy, ruthless, and brutal. Plenty of oh gosh, I'm not butchering the names of the families. I just can't read like real words. They're mid-level bosses scheme and are trying to like struggle to rise to the top to appease him. So their mechanic is Casualty, and it'll often be like Casualty and a number. So as you cast a spell with Casualty, you may sacrifice a power with X or greater, so whatever the Casualty is. And when you do, you can copy the spell, which is a pretty good way of just like being able to like sack tokens, like, you know, sack a 1/1 token. Most of the Casualty costs, I think, are pretty small to begin with, so it will be pretty easy to just like make some tokens, Casualty cards, boom boom.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, because you can only sacrifice one creature. It's not like you can sacrifice a bunch of creatures, so that prevents this from making tons and tons of copies. You just make one copy. But yeah, you just care about the power lining up. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just 2 spells for like the cost of like normally a 1 mana spell, I feel like. So like, you know, it's good value. I like this one the most.
Yeah, it's good value. So next up we have the Riveteers, aka the Destruction Workers, and this is black, red, green, so that would be Jund. Street Brawlers, yes. Vandals, Street Savvy Toughs, less centralized leadership, but highly territorial, impulsive, hot-headed, rumbling for a fight. And they have Blitz. If you cast this spell for its Blitz cost, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a trade-off of basically making it hasty, but then you have to sack it at the end, unless you do some, like, you know, typical wizardry shenanigans to, like, keep it around somehow. It's alright.
Yeah. This is also a pretty good one. There's a couple Blitz-worthy cards that we'll talk about.
I think we have, like, 1 or 2.
Yeah. We got the Cabaretti, the Party Monsters, as the red, green, white.
Naya.
Which, yes, that is Naya. I had a thing open, and I was like, trying to, like, oh, I didn't prepare. Which one is this?
I got you.
This one is Alliance, so essentially it's creature landfall. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you do something. Which I think is pretty good for, like, a Naya type of deck. Like, if you have those colors and you're going like the popular creature token strategy that Naya does, like think Girid, this can get you essentially like the same kind of number of triggers I feel like landfall decks get you for like going off landfall.
Yeah, landfall decks have a lot of support in this format. I don't want to say too much now, but I feel like the Naya color identity got like a few specific cool cards this set. I'm excited to talk about them.
Okay, yeah. Last family.
Yeah, the last one is the Brokers, aka the Demonic Lawyers. This is green, white, blue, so Bant. It is the Corrupt Cops, ostensibly the law enforcement force. They use their authority to control as much as they can and reward themselves in the process. So they have shield counters. If this creature were to be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. It's basically like a nerfed indestructible. Yeah?
Or so like regeneration?
Sure, yeah, like, because WotC doesn't use regeneration anymore. It kind of reminds me how, like, Ward has replaced Hexproof in a sense. Like, this, in my mind, shield counters are kind of a nerfed version.
They definitely are using Ward before Hexproof. Like, I feel like they still use Hexproof, of course, but like it's just like the card has to be like actually decently costed.
Yeah, a lot of care has to go into designing that card if a card has Hexproof these days, because it is just a very strong mechanic.
Yeah, and So it's also like the totem armors, I feel like. That's pretty good. And so this is also an interesting mechanic, but you can interact with it too with like proliferate. It's just like another way of them kind of expanding on the, token keywords, like giving a creature flying token, stuff like that.
All right. Well, would you like to move into talking about the new cards that can be your commanders?
Yeah. Okay. If you've been following us recently, you'll know that we are going to just kind of glaze over a couple of these unnoteworthy ones. So first is Lagra the Magpie, which is a Bant commander, or the Broker. It has some weird text, which is why I'm actually going to read it. So when Lagra the Magpie enters the battlefield, exile any number of other target creatures controlled by different players until Lagra leaves the battlefield. When an exiled card enters the battlefield under your control this way, put 2/1/1 counters on it. So it's weird because it's kind of like a Zed Druid deck in a way, I think, where you are trying to give your opponent stuff, but it's not like the stuff that I think people don't want so much. I just don't think this is like super intuitive how to use, so like that's why it's unnoteworthy to me. I don't think a lot of people are going to build decks around this.
Sure, and that's not to say, all of you listening, that you can't build this as your commander deck. Go for it. We're just putting these cards here in the unnoteworthy section because we don't really have that much to talk about them, or we don't think that they're going to see hardly any play. But by all means, go for it if you want. I'm going to read this
play
next
it if you
one.
want.
Yeah. I'm going to read this next one, but before I do, I'm going to take this shot. Here we go.
Shot. I
do not have chaser. Okay. This is Mr. Orfeo, the Boulder. 1 black, red, green for a legendary creature, Rhino Warrior 2/4. Whenever you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. That's all it is. So it's very straightforward. It's kind of asking you to play creatures and just swing out and beat in your opponents with said creatures. He can also target himself in theory, so I've seen people talking about him as Voltron. It's just going to be a very slow Voltron. He doesn't really have any keyword abilities that would protect him or even give him evasion, so I don't actually think that many people are going to play him for that. I just don't think people are going to play him actually that much.
Yeah, because like you already have to spend more mana to like kind of protect him. Alright, well, okay, so those are the unnoteworthy ones. Let's go to the like big boys of the cycle. The Demon Family head members. Okay, so we're going to go with Rafine Scheming Seer. It's a white, blue, black legendary creature, Sphinx Demon. Notably doesn't have red? Oh, no, so like demons and like devils often have either red or black, but we do have 2 here that don't have one of those
colors. The first
colors.
and the last one, yeah.
Yeah, it makes that interesting. Okay, so Sphinx Demon, flying, ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So then you draw X cards and discard X cards, but then some counter cards, some counters onto it. But yeah, I personally thought this is a pretty decent Sphinx card for like Unit decks, and it's also odd. So that's where my mind first went. Like, I see you have something I feel like is a little more of a better direction if you want to run this as a commander. So I'll kind of give it to you.
Sure, I know that some people have been talking about running this as a Voltron option because it's easy to cast at only 3 mana. It's flying, so it has evasion. It has ward 1, so it also has a way of pseudo-evasion, kind of, in terms of your opponent's spot removal. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, so it can target itself. So like when it attacks, it can loot a bunch. So after the looting, it also it can also give itself +1/+1 counters, so it can grow itself. Like you don't need to rely on any other cards from the 99. So there are a number of factors here that do align with the Voltron strategy. Is this going to be the new best Voltron ever? Probably not. Unless you connive like a whole fuck ton and just like put counters on this son of a bitch like no other, and then use your Esper color identity to protect it to hell. Like, give it a shot, sure.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you read the next one?
Sure. I think this is one of the first cards revealed from this set. I don't know. But this is, like, kind of talked about a lot. This is Lord Xander? Xander? I don't know how you just say it. It is 4...
Xander.
Yeah. 4 blue, black, red, 6/6. So, 7 mana, 6/6. Legendary creature, Vampire Demon Noble. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded down. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded down. When it dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control rounded down. So you're noticing a theme here. So like if it enters the battlefield or attacks or dies, half of something of your opponents gets stripped away from them, basically, is the idea here. So that's a lot of abilities on one creature to do. Like, it's nice that it has an ETB, so you get immediate value from it. Like, one of your opponents is just gonna like lose half their hand, and so that's pretty strong. When it attacks, someone's gonna have to like mill half their library. Not that big of a deal in most situations. And then when it dies, target opponent is gonna have to sacrifice half the non-land permanents they control rounded down, which is fucking rough for them. That is probably strong. Like, I would argue is probably one of the strongest things, because like you can, I'm just imagining someone casting this as their commander, killing it, sending it to the graveyard purposefully, and just playing like a cheap reanimate spell, and then getting the ETB, killing it again, playing another cheap reanimation spell, just doing that, not even necessarily attacking, and just like absolutely like fucking over their opponent's hands and board states. I could see that being a real thing that people do.
Yeah, this card is definitely been in contention for like the most ban-worthy. Like, I always feel like there's one or two. Yeah, I'm not trying to say like let's ban this. Like, trust me, I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's that strong. Like, it's good. Like,
it's fine.
You know, it's not like
it's
I don't know.
Goddamn mana.
Right. But I do see a lot of people trying to like call it to ban this, because I feel like they're just trying to say like this is going to be not fun to play against, and that's kind of true, I guess. But so your play group just has to be okay with it. But yeah, you do have great ways of like doubling up on your mill. You have plenty of ways of using like graveyard shenanigans to get the dies and ETB effect going off quite often, and so like, you know, this card kind of aligns with all the colors pretty well in the sense that like, you know, you can use these abilities a little more than probably WotC intended. But yeah, it's just not going to be a fun deck to play against sometimes. So I feel like, yeah, just be kind of like cautious and make sure if that's what you plan to do. Because I feel like nobody's going to like play this and be like, yeah, this is just going to be my vampire tribal commander. And I'm like, okay, I mean, don't know why you would pick this specifically, but you know, you
Edgar
do
Markov,
but...
who? Never heard of him.
Yeah. Next we have Ziatora, who is 3 black, red, green, 6/6, legendary creature, demon dragon, has flying, of course, and at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Ziatora the Incinerator deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. So yeah, I think this is pretty good. I don't have a ton to say, just because like I guess I'm not 100% sure what direction you're going in with this, but like you probably, okay, so actually you're going to be using probably the Blitz ability, so you would stack it in a way, I think, that you could sack some of the creatures that you're already going to be sacking with your Blitz ability, so then you can just kind of get this to go off, which would be pretty good, I think. So I think this one does beg you to build around the family's mechanic a lot.
Sure. This one is so straightforward. I don't think many people are going to build it. It is limited, So this is a trigger, right? But it's like limited to the beginning of your end step, so it happens at the very end of your turn. Like, yeah, you sacrifice another creature, and then it is nice that you get to deal damage, like, pretty much to any target. So you could deal it to someone's creature, someone's planeswalkers, to someone's face, anywhere you really need to send it. And then on top of that, you're making 3 treasure tokens. So in a way, it's a mana generator. But again, it's like limited at the end step. So like maybe you're kind of incentivized to run like instant speed interaction because this is at your end step. I don't know. It seems pretty straightforward. I don't think that many people are going to play this.
Yeah. Alright, let's move on. We got 2 more for the Mythic cycle.
Yeah, probably mispronouncing this one as well. Jetmer. It is 1 red, green, white, 5/4, legendary creature, cat, demon. Alright, 3 lines of text here. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. Creatures! Just all the creatures. Make them fucking huge, make them strong. Just play creatures and attack and do shit. Yeah.
Yeah, this screams like Timmy all the way.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, it does remind me a lot of the Gira deck, I feel like. So either this can be a good card to kind of like run that too, or like this could just be a good card to like put into that deck. Yeah, because like you're just populating a bunch, creating a bunch of tokens. So like reaching a threshold of 9 probably won't be that bad. But yeah, you do need to protect Jetmir for the most part. I feel like when he comes down, you have to be like super suspicious because like at any point if they remove him, even while you're like attacking, you'll lose kind of these buffs. So I feel like, you know, it is a good card for sure, and like you play this, but you know, then you want to also try and like protect it. Like don't just like throw them out there. Like I feel like that's silly.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because if you get like 9 or more creatures out, like all these buffs are going to be in place, and they're going to at least have +3/+0, vigilance, trample, and double strike, which is game ending. Probably.
Yeah, it's good. So, yeah. Alright, Falco Sparrow. This is 1 green, white, blue. 3/3, flying, trample. Falco Sparrow Packweaver enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control in addition to paying their costs. Okay, so like I wasn't so high on this as a commander card itself, but like this could go into a Traxa. I feel like do pretty well because like in that deck, you know, you just have a bunch of counters, so like you can play this, and it's kind of just like draw and play card at the same time. Which I guess like if once you hit a land, you're kind of screwed. But yeah, I feel like this is the better 99 card in a way than actually like building off a deck. But yeah, because I think you would want it in that deck specifically.
Sure. It does remind me a little bit of Elsha of the Infinite in the sense that you're getting to like look at the top card of your library at any time, and then
that's a good example.
You're sort of by no mistakes like is it as powerful as Elsha? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it reminds me of that. And so you're looking at the top of your deck, and like you do have to go through a bit of a hoop to play the cards off of the top of your library, because you still have to cast their costs, and then you have to go through the main hurdle, which is removing counters over and over and over again. It's not like you just do it one time and then you're like, all right, let's rip through the deck. No, you got to keep doing that for each like castable card, basically. So for that reason, I think being in this color identity, if you are running this as the commander, you're probably making a whole bunch of +1/+1 counters, and then trying to do like powerful banned things? Question mark. So I'm kind of interested in where this deck can really go, because that's a really odd deck building choice. I don't know. We'll see. Someone play it against me. Yeah.
Okay. So we got through those, which I feel like, yeah, they're like the highlights of the commander set. They're like what the game is kind of built around. Like it is similar to, you know, when we have like the 5 dragons, the 5 mutated beasts, Vicoria. Okay, so now we are going to go down to a cycle of rare commanders who have a 2 hybrid combinations and a normal mana symbol in the middle. So essentially they're kind of monocolored in a way where like you could build your deck monocolored like that, but then you're like leaving out 2 colors. But then it makes it easier to cast these cards because, yeah, there's always at least 1 color of mana that you could use to cast it, which is cool. We haven't really seen something like this before.
Mm-hmm.
All
Do
right,
you mind if I read this first one?
go for it.
Alright, so this first one is Toulouse, Clever Conductor. It is hybrid Azorius, blue, hybrid Dimir. So in total it's Esper. And it is a 3/1 legendary creature, human rogue, that when it enters the battlefield, it connives. So remember, you like loot and then put some +1/+1 counters on it, maybe. And whenever you discard 1 or more cards, exile them from your graveyard. Okay, that seems like a downside. But then, when it dies, put the cards exiled with it into their owner's hand. It just sort of seems like one of those things that spins its wheels, and then at the end, it's like, ta-da! And then you're like, well, you didn't really do anything. And they're like, exactly. So, that's my opinion of this card. Doesn't really end up doing anything.
I guess, like, to me, it's not that it doesn't do anything, but it's like it can do anything. Because it's just like a somewhat good value piece that, like, you can play to then just kind of, like, stockpile a bunch of cards. And then, like, when it leaves, you get all these cards. And then it's like, wow, I have so many cards. Like, what can I do? Well, you have, like, a lot of options in these colors to just then try and, like, win the game. Especially if you're, you know, maybe getting up to
sort of
20
like
cards.
It's sort of like bag
It's too
of holding.
open-ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So like that's why I'm like, yeah, it's like I guess good, but then like what specifically interesting thing are you going to do with this? And it's like, I don't know. I think it's cool. I won't play it. No, never mind. We're moving on. Alright, so we got Evelyn, the covetous. So 2 generic mana, and then a blue-black, and then a black-red. Legendary creature, vampire rogue, flash. When she enters, or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once per turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it. If it was exiled but an ability you controlled, you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. Alright. It's a good thing this thing isn't in Edgar Markov colors, because like that would make it like crazy. Because then it's like vampire, essentially 2 vampires come into play, and it's like, alright, exile 2 cards. And yeah, that deck kind of goes crazy. Anyway, yeah, you do have other vampire creatures that can maybe like create more tokens to like kind of double up in that way. I saw on the command zone, like, they were talking about how, like, the EDH is supposedly, like, going crazy for this card. I forget the lines, but it had something to do with, like, World Gorger Dragon and Animate Dead. I don't know if, like, but, like, on Twitter, I haven't seen anything on the EDH community talking about it either, so I'm like, is it? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say about this card. I mean, this is the first time that we've seen a collection counter. You know, they're making counters for kind of anything that they need, and that's fine. But this is just the first time we've seen a collection counter.
Mm-hmm. It does kind of scream Paco Halden in different colors to me. Like, I think that's the closest I can think of in comparison.
In the sense that you could potentially be playing your opponent's cards, using them against them. Sure.
I know they're a little different.
Mm-hmm. This next one, I'm a little bit more excited about, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Go on.
Yeah, so this is Ognis, the Dragon's Lash, 1 generic, hybrid, Rakdos, so black-red, red, and then red-green, Gruul. So in total, 4 mana, 3/3, legendary creature, Bayashino Warrior, and it has haste. And then it's pretty simple. Whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token. So what you do is you just play a bunch of creatures with haste, or cards that give your creatures haste, just in general. And then you go to combat and you swing out and start beating face. And then you start making a bunch of tapped treasure tokens. And then, congratulations, you're ramping and you're probably going to start doing some powerful things now because you're making a bunch of mana. You can use those treasures to make even more, to cast even more creatures, and then make even more treasures, and then you're going to have a great time. There's room to do a lot of things within this color identity. I might see it every once in a while. I don't think it's going to be super popular, but I can see someone playing this, and I'm going to have to be like, oh crap, even though they're coming in tapped, they're making a lot of mana. Ooh, okay.
I feel like it's silly. It would be silly to throw a creature in here that doesn't have haste, I feel like. I feel like almost all your creatures have to have haste to always like have this thing kind of be turned on. Because if you play this and it's like, that's the only creature with haste, it's like, oh, okay, I'll just make one. Like, no, you will probably have at least 2 to 3 at all times, which is also good. But yeah,
it's nice that the treasures enter tapped too. I think we both agree on that, probably.
Yeah. What's that one card? Academy Manufacturer. That, obviously a good card for this, because then it would turn the tapped treasure tokens into an untapped treasure token, because it's like, instead of creating that kind of token, you create these 3 tokens, and then it will make one of each instead, and I believe that it would come in untapped, so yeah, good card.
Yeah, if you would create like a food, clue, or treasure token, instead create one of each, so that it would still make the tapped treasure token, I believe, but it would also just make a clue and a food.
Hold on. Let me read it real quick, because if it says instead...
It doesn't say instead. It just says if you create one of these 3, and instead create one of each.
You just said instead.
I'm gonna take another shot.
It says instead. Okay, so if you would create one, instead create one of each. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it would replace the treasure that it makes.
For an untapped treasure, though?
Yeah.
See, I'm not a magic judge, I don't know shit.
Because it's a replacement effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we aren't magic judges. I feel like I'm trying to be smart here, but maybe... Okay. Anyway,
try every day.
On. We'll try to be magic judges every day?
No, try to be smart every day. We fail, but we still do it.
Oh, I mean, this podcast has proven that, I can certainly not say smart things sometimes. Yeah. I've struggled to read some of these cards.
Alright, read the next one.
Okay. We got Jin Fei. So this is a hybrid red-green. So Gruul. Green-white. Selesnya hybrid. Legendary creature Elf Druid. If you would create one or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. I love the flavor of this. Super cool. And I like the versatility of, also getting to either pick a creature that's stronger or one with haste, because, both are good, and then the stronger creature has vigilance. Seems like a good support card for maybe Rin and Seri decks, which is pretty popular, or, you could swap them kind of easily, I feel like. But yeah. I think this will be certainly a fun commander. I don't expect this to, go crazy.
Yeah, I do think this would be a really nice card in Rin and Seri Inseparable, specifically. Or vice versa, I suppose. Because they're both the same color identity. They both care about cats and dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. This last one, I don't know if you want to read it. I deemed it unnoteworthy, actually. But I included it as part of the cycle. But, yeah.
Might as well. I'll just read it real quick. It is Rigo, Streetwise Mentor. It is green or white. White or blue. So a total of 3 mana. It's a 2/2 legendary creature cat citizen. When it enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on it. So remember the pseudo-indestructible thing? Yeah, that thing. Whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with 1 or more creatures with power 1 or less, draw a card. Yeah, that's pretty tame. It's nice that it's not just planeswalkers, that it's a player, but it has to be with creatures with power 1 or less. So then you draw a card. It's like, what, power 1 or less tribal creatures attacking? Yeah, that's not really a thing. I don't think this is enough of a card to make that a thing. We're going to move on.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a couple of uncommon commanders, and this one's pretty good. So it's Roko Cabaretti Caterer, X, red, green, white, legendary creature Elf Druid. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Well, okay, wait. Now that I'm thinking about this, I feel like would this actually work with Food Chain? Much as you want it to? Because, like...
Yeah, so there's a number of things that you can do with this card. People have talked about using, like because X is in the casting cost, so you can have X be like slightly different amount of mana to get certain different things, to get you to certain different combo lines. Like I think you can get like Moon Blessed Cleric, get your Food Chain to the top of your deck, then cast the Food Chain, sack both Roko and the Cleric, and then get like Squee, and then start doing bullshit with that. And then there's also like Arena Rector, getting the new Vivian, which we're going to talk about later, and then start doing Kiki Jiki combo lines. So there's like just a few different things that you can do with this. I'm not sure I don't think it actually is the best Food Chain commander, but it is a Food Chain commander.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I was like, it needs something else. Like, I guess when I was like because like most of the best Food Chain commanders are like a 2-card combo.
Yeah, they loop themselves. I'm not so sure that this one can loop itself, given the wording on it.
I don't. Yes, I believe because of the wording, you won't be able to do it so much. But
curse you,
yeah,
WotC,
you do
for figuring it out.
Yeah, damn you for not giving us a Food Chain commander, almost like, how you do every other set. So, do you want to move on to the next one?
Yep. The next one is Cormilla, Glamour Thief. 1 blue, black, red for a 2/4 legendary creature vampire rogue with haste. Then it has an activated ability of 1 tap. Add blue, black, red. Spend this mana only to cast instant and or sorcery spells. Whenever it dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So, this is a Grixis commander that can make mana, but it's mana that's specifically used for instants and sorceries. There's just so many Grixis commanders that care about instants and sorceries at this point that unfortunately this kind of just like is in line with all the other ones. Like, I'm just like, if you're doing this, kind of why aren't you just doing like Cast Dissonant Mage? Like, sure, like maybe there's something about this art or something that you like, but if you're doing Cormilla, you're probably just doing Cass. I probably shouldn't think that way, but it's like,
Yeah, I was kind of like, on it. There's probably some loops to go through to make it like, do the Kess thing, but it's just kind of like, it's a more tame Kess, which isn't always bad, because I feel like people who do like that kind of strategy, and if their player group doesn't like playing it, then they can kind of like find something more suitable for the play level style. So
sure. I know that there's always discussions about how people are like, I need to power down a deck. What do I do? Like, so you have your Kess deck and you want to power down, maybe play Cormilla.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think of a more recent example, but I can't quite off the top of my head. But, alright, we'll move on. We got Quasar, Augur of Agonies. 1 white, blue, black. Legendary creature, Cephalid Advisor. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So, okay, this is pretty good. You got plenty of good ways to draw cards, except for white. You got Peer into the Abyss, so you could draw like half your library and pretty much kill someone, hopefully, with gaining that much, and then you gain the life back.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking of it in the ways of like your library is a round of like bullet shots and 1 does each damage, you won't have quite enough to necessarily kill all your opponents without then having some way of like rebuilding into it, a way to like get your library back into your deck. So you need like one of the Eldrazi Titans probably.
Yeah, because we're a 100 card like singleton format, so like your deck is like 100 cards, and then like there's usually like 99 or 98 in the main deck, depending if you have partners. And then like, you draw 7 cards, so like you really start off with like what, 92-ish cards in the deck when you like first actually like start your first turn. And that's not enough when in theory you're 3 or more opponents who each start at 40 life. Like, what's that? 120 is more than like 92-ish. So you got to find ways.
Yeah, that's
to,
good
like,
math.
So
good math.
Yeah, I explained that very poorly, but I think that's accurate. Yeah, you got to find ways to like basically shuffle some of your like grave or like usually your grave back into your library a bit, and then continue to draw cards to like shoot your opponents, ping them, I should say, I guess.
Yeah. I know one other card that like people are going like, oh, this is a must, is like Drogskull Reaver, which is a 5 white blue spirit flying double strength lifelink, but that's not the important part. It says whenever you gain a life, draw a card. So like this paired with that is a 2-card combo to like do what we were just talking about, but you would need ways of like being able to then discard cards at instant speed. But yeah. Okay. That's it for colored legendary creatures. We got some monocolored creatures to talk about. I feel like not nearly as many as we normally do. Most of them were built around the families.
That's fine. We're already like 45 minutes in.
Yeah. Why don't you read this first one?
Alrighty. This one is Benny Brax, Zoologist. What a fun name. 3 and a white, 3/2, and then it's a legendary creature, Elf Druid with Convoke. So it's sort of like, I believe if I'm remembering Convoke right, you basically tap creatures and then it reduces the generic cost of the thing you're convoking.
If it is also a creature of the color, then it can pay for a colored mana cost too.
Yes.
So if it's a white creature, then you can tap it to pay for a white, which is pretty good.
Yeah, so if you tap a bunch of, like, if you tap 3 white creatures, this can cost a single white mana, correct?
Yeah, or just one generic. It's 3 white creatures.
Sure. Yeah, so it has Convoke. At the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, draw a card. So very simple text, but there's a lot to kind of discuss with this. Guy, I feel like you kind of want to talk about this more than I do, so I'm actually going to let you talk about it.
Yeah, I think this is, it's a white deck or a white deck that does focus around what one of white's best aspects are and then rewards it for it. I do like how it's also just like kind of limited to 1 card and it doesn't really care so much how many cards you are, otherwise that'd be crazy. But you have cards like Smothering Tide, which will always probably be creating a token during your opponent's, because like...
Pretty much always, because no one wants to pay the 2. No one even wants to pay the 1 for Ristic Study. Yeah. You got Raise the Alarms, Monastery Mentor, which are all these good abilities where like you can pretty much create tokens at instant speed, and then you'll be able to like benefit from drawing the cards. White has plenty of good protection too, so like I don't think it'd be that hard to like protect this guy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it could definitely be a commander. Like now that I've kind of like talked myself into it, I think I had to like say everything out loud, because it is just a good value engine, and it would just keep, drawing you into probably the pieces you want. Or I think like it could also be a pretty decent like 99 card if your mono white deck is built more so around this. I don't think this is like a generic good white card, but I think in the right white decks, like this would be awesome. I'm trying to think of all the mono white commanders there are, and I think besides for maybe Tashar, because Tashar can actually like do certain loops that can draw the most in like mono white. But I think besides that, like I'm thinking of like the Heliod's and other popular like mono white commanders. Okay, I guess there's SRAM. SRAM can draw a decent amount, but other than that, this might be like the next up in line for like mono white's ability as a commander to draw.
Yeah, we do have Pangara the Diplomat, but like I feel like he's often more so good as a 99 card.
Yeah, he's more in the 99.
He's pretty good too.
Sure. Yeah, we're slowly getting there. And I mean, there are other cards I kind of thought of, like Luminarch's Ascension. Like if you have the 2 mana to activate over and over and over again, that's pretty much 2 mana to like draw a card. Especially if you time it correctly.
And create a 4/4 body.
Yeah. And then, not too long ago, there was Keeper of the Accord, which had a lot of discussion around that. So I think now we're really seeing... We're starting to get to, like, okay, now all these effects on white, these newish white cards are going to layer with each other, and they're going to, like, start really, like, forming a good base for mono white in Commander to, like, actually, keep up with card advantage with the other color identities.
Yeah. Alright, so we got next. So that was our only mono white commander, and it is important to note that this isn't in the main set. This is in set boosters exclusively. Alright, next is Errant Street Artist, which is only 1 blue mana. Legendary creature, human rogue, flash, defender, haste on a mono blue creature, and then you have 1 blue, copy target spell you control that wasn't cast. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is like a copy deck, where you want to copy your spells with cards like Nivix Guildmage, League Guildmage, Is It Guildmage, like those guild mages, or like Toiling Staff, the Casualty Mechanic, and then once you have a copy of a spell that you are casting, you can then copy the copy. So it's kind of a way of like tripling up on that a little. And so I do think it's super interesting. I'm not quite sure what like the line is to like probably like go infinite and win. There probably might be, but it might require more setup than what it's worth.
Sure, I do just like the design. It's like a 1-drop creature that has all these restrictions on it that in the right deck I could see being powerful. Because yeah, it's a 1-drop with haste, and like true, you can't really attack with it, but like you're probably not planning to in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about this card because I'm so mad.
Be mad.
Urbrask, Heretic Praetor. So we got our red Praetor, and we've seen Vorinclex. We just saw Jingataxius and Kamigawa, and now we have Urbrask. So we're getting through the cycle quicker than we kind of thought, because we were like, oh, one this year, one next year, and then maybe it seems like it's all coming together much quicker than we thought.
Wait a minute, guy. The Phyrexians aren't on Phyrexia anymore?
I mean, I know very little of the story, but I'm not going to go into that right now.
Yeah.
Alright, so Urbrask, Heretic Praetor. 3 red, legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. Has haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead they exile the top card of their library, they may play it this turn. Alright, so as a commander, I do think this is pretty lackluster. And we have seen the other Praetors be much more taxing and kind of force your opponents to play around it. Whereas, I feel like this is just a small inconvenience. I would have loved for this to more have just caused, straight draw denial in a way, where it's every card, but maybe then that's too oppressive, because then it also becomes kind of like Hull Breacher in a way where you could cast a wheel and then if nobody can do anything, then they discard and exile their whole hand, which would be pretty brutal. But yeah, there are some decks that definitely I think want to see this, so notably Prosper for it will reward you for wanting to then play cards that are exiled, but yeah, I just think that there's probably just a bunch of better kind of like cantrippy type cards now, where it's like play this, exile 2 cards, play 1 at the top, so it's like impulsive draw. That would replace this in a heartbeat. So, like, I think it's noteworthy to talk about because it's one of the Praetors, but to me, this is definitely the most lackluster of them, and I'm pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I mean, I've seen people be like, well, just pair this with Dranth Magistrate, yes. And then they can't play the cards that are exiled. Haha. It's like, well, yes, but Dranth Magistrate is already a super fucking powerful card all on its own. Like, that's not really a very good point to make, in my opinion. So
yeah, and that's already in a red-white kind of deck.
That would have to be red-white, yeah. So it's not even like... You can't even play that in 99, or... yeah, I pretty much agree with you, Guy. Like, the original Urabrask I've played against, and, like, I like that one a little bit more, to be honest. Just, like, giving all of your creatures haste, and, like, having all of your opponent's stuff and are tapped. I think that has more application, generally speaking, than this new Urabrask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we move on? Because I am sad.
We'll move on. This next commander is Jaxis, the Troublemaker. 3 generic and a red for a 2/3. Legendary creature, human warrior. And then it has an activated ability of red, tap, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. And then it has Blitz for 1 and a red. So, you're sort of staying card neutral, because at first you're having to discard a card, but then like when the creature dies, you get the card back. Creating a token of another target creature you control, you know, it can be powerful depending on the powerful creature that you're copying. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I do like how you can essentially just be like drawing cards, like for having to sacrifice 2 creatures here. Like, I think of the Blitz cards, this is the best Blitz card.
Sure.
In general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like easily just copy one of your things for 3 mana, and then like in the end you're going to draw 2 cards too. But you're also probably copying your best like ETB trigger thing. So yeah, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we included the Planeswalkers in this legendary part, and so first we had 3. Yep, we had 3 in the main set. Elspeth's not that good.
She's boring.
Yeah, she's bad. Okay, so we got Nixlas, the Adversary. 1 black-red, legendary creature, Nixlas. Casualty X. The copy isn't legendary and has starting loyalty X. So as you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do copy the spell, the copy becomes a token. So I think, like, in some decks, this could be pretty good. Because, like, to get a Planeswalker that you wouldn't have to sacrifice, because it's not like you're blitzing this, it's like you're copying it, for 3 mana, is pretty good, I think. I don't know. Yeah, I see what you say, but I mean, this isn't like format defining by any means, but I like the design of this.
Sure, yeah, you can like the design. So, like, if I'm understanding correctly, you could sacrifice a creature with, say, power, like, let's just say power 8. You'll make a copy of this Planeswalker with 8 loyalty, yeah? And you can immediately ultimate it?
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, I like that. That option.
That's definitely magical Christmas land in a way.
Sure.
But, like, you know, even if you just do it for 2, you can at least use, like, the +1 and the -2. Wait, I didn't even read, like, the abilities, did I? Okay.
You don't need to. Just
okay, hold on. +1, each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. I feel like that's not a hard condition to make, so pretty easy. Plus, also, -2, create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. -7, target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. So you could easily, like, you know, again, just even make like a 2 loyalty counter version. Take this down, get the Red Devil, you get a creature, and also then can use then the +1 on the other version to each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. And you'll meet the condition. Actually, you can do this with 1, because like he'll have 3. He could use his -2 immediately if he wants. So yeah, not bad.
Alright. So this next Planeswalker we have is one I think I'm a little bit more excited about, to be honest. It is Vivian on the Hunt. 4 green, legendary Planeswalker Vivian with 4 loyalty. So 6 mana, comes in with 4 loyalty. Alright. But, and I'm not gonna read, I don't even want to read the like +1 or -1. I just want to read the +2, because that's all that's really important.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just going to read the +2, and it says, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So it's essentially like a birthing pod-esque effect, where you're kind of like chaining up into creatures. So that's pretty much what you're going to be using this card for. You're not going to be using the other abilities, that's why I'm not reading them. So, Guy, you have a bit more written about this card. I'm going to let you talk about it.
Yeah, because there is a line with this.
There's a couple. Right. There's actually a couple.
Right. You can use Planebound Accomplice, which can cheat this in for a red, and then you use the +2 to sack the Planebound Accomplice, which is 3 mana, so you can go grab something like Felidar Guardian. So you're in Naya colors. Felidar Guardian enters the battlefield. This will trigger its blink ability to then blink Vivian. Vivian will leave, come back, then you can reuse the +2. Use that to sack Felidar Guardian to then go grab Karmic Guide, which will then bring back the Felidar Guardian with Karmic Guide's ETB, so then that re-enters, blinking Vivian once again. Then you can use the +2 again to go get sack Karmic Guide to go get Kiki-Jiki, and then create infinite Felidar Guardians by blinking and tapping Kiki-Jiki. So, yeah, I know a lot of people are excited about this because, like, you know, in those Naya decks, you do have, like, Planebound Accomplice, you have, like, Academy Rector, like, that can go just grab you a Planeswalker, which is pretty good. What do you got, Blake?
You pretty much got it nailed.
Oh, okay. I thought there was more. I was like, yeah, this card's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's just like it can lead if you're in the right color identities, because maybe not in mono green, but like if you're spread across a couple color identities, like you can definitely get the right certain set of creatures, you know, Kiki lines as you were saying, and just like get into a game-winning infinite combo at the end. And yeah, that's really what it is. That's, if you ever see this card in Commander, that's probably what your opponent's going for, if I'm being honest. Or they're just using it for value, in which case they're getting like a silver bullet like creature, or maybe just a value creature. Yeah, this one's all right. I think I'm going to see this much more than the other 2 Planeswalkers that came in this set.
I agree. I mean, this one definitely seems like the best of them, and
yes,
I do think Nixlas is good in specific decks. I'm not trying to advocate for him to go into every red and black deck necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I was just more saying, like, discard decks I think are pretty good to, like, get a 3 mana Planeswalker for 2 Planeswalkers for 3 mana can be kind of crazy. So yeah. Okay, that's it for legendaries and Planeswalkers. Didn't write this, but Blake, who do you think is the best, or will see the most play?
Ooh.
Totally forgot to write that question at the end.
Yeah, that's a good question, though. I'm gonna edit my response.
You're gonna edit your response to whatever is the correct answer on EDH Rec. You're gonna start saying like each one, and it's like, all right. And then when it comes time, it's like, oh yeah, that's what I said.
Ooh yeah. I think it's honestly, it's gonna be tough. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure that this set has many strong commanders that are gonna pull a lot of desire to deck build. If I had
But,
to
which
choose
one will be the most played then, do you think?
most played, maybe that like all creatures deck, that cat demon thing that just gives. If you have enough creatures, it slowly gives them buffs. The Jetmir. Yeah. That's what I can think of. Because people just want to play, like... I can see people just wanting to play, like, Naya creature good stuff and just, like, beat face in.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that's a pretty good contender. I feel like all the other ones are a little too niche to, like...
Yeah.
Warrant them being their own commanders. Like, I bet there will be a community of Lord Xander people, but like I said, not a lot of people are going to want to play against that, so they might be asked to, like, only play it on some occasions. Yeah.
What about you? What's your vote?
No, I agree with you. Probably
okay.
Jetmir and then Lord Xander. Like, I think those are the two. I do think all the Demon family leaders are going to be popular. Like, they would be the most popular of them, of the creatures in the deck.
Yeah.
Or in the set, sorry. And then, which of the Planeswalkers do you think will see the most?
Get out of here.
Yeah, that was a pretty easy question. Alright, so thank you very much for listening. We're gonna just, dive right into part 2 once we outro out, of course. But yeah, so we are the Wizard Staff Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a like and review. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WizardStaff101. Send us an email at thewizardstaff101@gmail.com if you want to bitch and complain about how stupid we are. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great night. Peace.
Peace.